Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to have a look at the Pokémon TCG Classic and ask the question, was this a bad idea? Because here's the thing, right? We're going up to Pokémon Day next week, and they've just announced the Pokémon Presents for Pokémon Day next week. And that got me thinking back to Pokémon Day last year, and the Pokémon Presents last year, and I was at a party for Pokémon Day thrown by TPCI. It was lovely, and I ended up having to make a video about the Pokémon TCG Classic in a cinema, recording it in a tiny little corridor and then editing it in an actual big screening room. I wasn't editing it on the screen. That would be amazing. I was just sat on the seats on my laptop. But the point is, it was very, 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 very big news. This was a huge thing, very popular video. And yet, as it's come and gone, I think people are a lot less excited than they were. And I think it's ended up being a product which has kind of fallen a little bit flat. Let's have a look, shall we? So the whole point of this was, it was supposed to be this massive celebration of the history of the Pokemon TCG. So we had, this big case that folds out into a rather lovely playmat. You've got all kinds of weird damage counters and a ball instead of dice, and we've got reprints of base set Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard featuring in their own deck. It was wonderful. And then they even threw in a few new cards. And then they charged us $400, either $400 or £400, depending on where you were. Now, this is always one of my biggest problems with it, because in the UK, I have to pay £400. If I could have found a Japanese version, and I entered several lotteries to try and buy it, I lost them all, I couldn't buy one. But if I were able to buy a Japanese version, that would be 35,000 yen, which is about £185. Even paying to ship it over from Japan, that is fantastically cheaper than it was in the UK. And not only that, but, and this is pure personal preference, let's be clear, in my eyes, it's just better. Like, look at the two Charizard next to each other. Look at the two Professor Oak next to each other. In my mind, and it like I say, it's a completely personal preference, all right? But for me personally, I think the Japanese version, the cards look way cooler. I collect Japanese cards way more than I collect English cards. And the Japanese version ended up being literally less than half the price. Although a little bit more than half the price if I were to be able to find it and get it shipped over. But there's no way this ends up costing more than like $250 shipped if I can find it for retail in Japan, and I promise you I tried, and that's compared to $400. Now for $250 for the Japanese, I would have bought it. And here's the thing, in Japan this sold out. I've never seen this for sale in Japan. If you go on the Pokemon Center Japanese website, as I do, I'm going to be honest with you, it's daily. I check it daily to see if anything cool's coming in, alright? And there's nothing. It's just not available. This is not available in Japan. But that is not the case over here. Not at all. In the UK, this is just widely available. It is not even remotely a struggle to pick this up if you're in the UK, etc. So if we go to have a look on UK Pokemon Center, it's just in stock. It's just sitting there chilling in stock. £400, it ain't cheap like I said, but it is literally just sitting there chilling in stock at £400. No ifs, buts or maybes, no arguments, and it's been there for a while at this stage. And I knew I could go on and find it. So this was never going to be an issue. And it's the same on the US Pokemon Center. I'm not going to show you, just believe me, alright? It's there. But honestly, at this stage, paying £400 is way too much. Way too much. If you pay £400 for this, you have overpaid, frankly. Not to be rude, but you have. Because if we just have a random, and I'm just going to have a quick look, just randomly on Google, I'm just going to Google Pokemon TCG Classic, find out how much I can buy it for. The cheapest I've got it here, Zavi, is showing it at $2.95. There are a couple of other places, incidentally, which are showing it for around about that. But let's just use Zavi's a decent enough place. It's fine. It's, yeah. I've bought stuff from Zavi before. They're reliable. They're a pretty big chain. They mostly sell, like, Blu-rays and stuff. But then they also sell collectibles. They're one of those weird shops. It used to be a music shop. And then people stopped buying physical music. And they did a lot with films. But then people stopped buying physical films. And now they just kind of sell whatever. But they're selling it for £100 off. And obviously it's like a big shop. So you're not paying postage or anything like that. You should be paying under $300. If you're paying more than $300, something's gone very, very wrong. And this gets to my question of, was it a mistake? Because in Japan, they clearly didn't make enough of them, and it's really hard to actually get hold of for a decent price. But over here, you shouldn't be paying more than 75% of retail. It is so available and so easy to pick up that all the shops are just slashing their prices. You should be getting at least £100 off of this, if not a little bit more. It is that gosh darn cheap, and I can't really look for American shops too easily. It's a bit of a pain. But if we go on American eBay, for instance, yeah, it's like $300. You should be picking it up for about $300 pretty easily, honestly. There's a whole bunch on there for about that. So again, you're talking about 75% off. And that's kind of my point here. It is so cheap in the West that suggests to me that this is just not sold like Pokemon wanted. And that's the thing, right? When we talk about, was a product a mistake? Was this something that Pokemon probably regret making, etc.? We're not looking at what I think of it on a personal level. We're talking about, how did it sell? And I don't have sales figures from Pokemon. I wouldn't have that information. That would be weird. What I do have is a lot of business knowledge and a background teaching business. And when you're looking at stuff like this, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But we can say with a fair degree of certainty that if something is just constantly being sold lower, that means that it's not sold very well. Essentially, everybody's got it in stock, so nobody's willing to pay retail, so every shop has to lower their price, and it turns into kind of a competition of, we call it a race to the bottom in business. Everybody's trying to just sell as cheap as they can, because if you don't sell it super cheap, no one's actually going to buy it from you. And that's where we end up with this. I still think this is a very cool product. I'm still a fan of this product. But the fact that it was so much cheaper in Japan and the Japanese version was nicer, I'll be honest with you, I've not picked up the English version of this. I still want to pick up the Japanese version. But Pokemon did something extremely cool, which I think also hurt the sales of this, and that is that they came out straight away, and I love that Pokemon did this. They came out straight away and said, look, there are some exclusive cards in this product. We're not going to make you buy the TCG Classic for these exclusive cards. They released the Combined Powers Premium Collection. And that came with the 3 new EXs, Lugia, Suicune, and Ho-Oh, along with a Jumbo Lugia that didn't actually come in a TCG Classic. And then the new Tool cards, Drops in the Ocean, Scorching Charcoal, and Sunseed, along with a Mr. Mime that was weird. It wasn't new in Japan, it was a reprint of a Vending Series card. But it never got an English release, so in the Japanese TCG Classic, this is just a straight reprint, all good. But over here, it was actually a brand new card translated for the first time, which was, quite frankly, weird. So my point here is that by releasing the Combined Powers collection, Pokemon basically went, you only need to buy the TCG Classic if you want this super premium collection with the free decks and the cool accessories and to play the game. That's all you're buying it for. Don't buy it for the new cards, and we're going to make this super premium, really expensive product, but you only need to buy it for the reprinted cards and the cool kind of damage counters, ball instead of dice, etc., etc. And we can tell by the price of this that Pokemon, I mean, look, there's several things they did which I absolutely adore. They clearly printed enough of these, and that's awesome. They clearly made it so that they weren't tricking us into buying it for the new cards. They were really clear about that from the beginning. And they made a very, very cool product, alright? But the fact of the matter is, it's clearly not sold well enough. And people just don't seem as excited about this. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I want to know what you think, though. I want to know if you think this was worth doing. I want to know if this is something you've picked up. I want to know if you picked it up, why, and if you didn't pick it up, why not? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Uriel Rojas, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person, so shout-out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.